Captain Aidan Reed was on a mission to explore a remote planet far from Earth. His spaceship, the Orion, had been sent to gather intelligence on Xylora, a planet that humans had never contacted before. Aidan had always been a man of duty, a soldier through and through. This was supposed to be just another routine mission, scouting, observing, and reporting back. Little did he know that this seemingly simple task would end up changing the course of his life forever. The morning started as usual. The stars outside his ship's window twinkled against the blackness of space. Aidan had spent hours checking his equipment, reviewing his maps, and making sure everything was in order. As a pilot for the Earth Space Exploration Agency, he had seen a lot in his time: alien species, unknown anomalies, and uncharted territories. But nothing had prepared him for what was about to happen. Out of nowhere, a blinding flash lit up the starry expanse. Aidan's hands gripped the controls instinctively, but his heart skipped a beat as the ship's alarms blared. His eyes flicked to the navigation screen, only to see a fleet of unknown ships surrounding him. Their designs were nothing like he had seen before, sleek, metallic, and terrifying in their precision. Before he could react, a high-pitched sound tore through the air, followed by a violent jolt. The ship shuddered and the lights flickered. Aidan's mind raced as he tried to steady the craft. His fingers danced across the dashboard, trying to send out a distress signal. It was no use. The enemy ships had already jammed his communications. The ship's hull groaned under the strain as another blast hit the Orion's left wing. Sparks flew from the control panel, and Aidan knew that the ship was losing power. Panic briefly surged through him. He quickly adjusted the controls, trying to maneuver the ship away from the incoming fire, but the damage was too extensive. With his training kicking in, he prepared for the worst. He punched in a series of commands that would allow him to eject in case of an emergency. But before he could execute the sequence, the ship shuddered one last time. The world outside turned into a whirl of colors, and then everything went black. Aidan awoke to the sound of muffled voices. His head throbbed and his vision was blurry. Slowly, he pushed himself up, disoriented and weak. He could taste blood in his mouth, and his limbs felt heavy. Panic surged through him again, but it was replaced with confusion when he realized he wasn't in his ship. He was in a dark, cold cell. The room around him was unfamiliar. Its walls were made of crystalline material, glowing faintly with an unnatural light. There were no windows, no doors, just walls that pulsed with a strange energy. He tried to stand, but his legs gave way and he stumbled to the ground. He had been captured. Aidan's mind raced as he tried to recall the events leading up to his capture. The ship, he remembered seeing the alien ships, the attack, the explosion. He shook his head, trying to piece together what had happened. His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden sound, a soft hum, followed by the appearance of a figure in the doorway. Aidan's eyes narrowed as he focused on the silhouette. The figure stepped forward, and he was struck by the sight of an alien, a being unlike any he had ever seen. She was tall and imposing, with dark purple skin that shimmered under the dim light. Her eyes were wide and dark, and her posture exuded authority. The alien queen stood in front of him, her eyes scanning him with cold calculation. She was dressed in ornate armor that seemed to shimmer and change with every movement, as though it was alive. The faint glow emanating from her armor cast an eerie light over her face, making her seem both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Aidan felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard stories of powerful alien leaders, stories that painted them as merciless and cruel, but this was real. This was no myth. This was an alien queen, and he was her prisoner. "Who are you?" Aidan demanded, his voice hoarse but defiant. He struggled to stand but collapsed back to the floor. The queen didn't answer immediately. Instead, she watched him with an almost curious gaze, as though studying him. Finally, after a long pause, she spoke. "I am Tikaris," she said, her voice smooth and cold. "The ruler of Xylora and the one who will decide your fate." Aidan didn't flinch at her words. He had been through tough situations before, and this was just another one to add to the list. But there was something different about her, something unsettling. He couldn't put his finger on it, but there was a power in her presence, an aura that radiated control and dominance. "Why am I here?" Aidan asked, his mind racing for a way to escape. "What do you want from me?" The queen's gaze hardened and she stepped closer. "You are a prisoner of war, a prisoner of the Xyloran Empire. I've taken you because you are a threat to my rule." Aidan's heart skipped a beat. "A threat? What are you talking about? I was just on a mission. The queen's eyes narrowed, and she let out a soft, almost amused laugh. You may think you were just on a mission, but you carry something far more valuable than you realize. Aiden's confusion deepened, but before he could ask what she meant, she turned on her heel and walked toward a small control panel embedded in the wall. With a simple gesture, the wall beside Aiden opened, revealing a set of metallic shackles. The queen motioned for the guards to approach. Take him to the holding chamber, she ordered coldly. He will stay there until I decide what to do with him. As Aiden was dragged out of the cell, he glanced back one last time at the queen. Her piercing gaze locked with his, and for a brief moment, Aiden felt a flicker of something. A connection, perhaps. But before he could analyze it, he was pulled away, leaving him alone with his thoughts and a growing sense of dread. He didn't know what was coming, but one thing was certain. His life had just taken a turn for the worse. He was at the mercy of an alien queen, and the only thing he had left was his wits and his will to survive. Days passed since Aiden had been thrown into the holding chamber. The walls of his cell seemed to close in on him as he lay on the cold, metallic floor, trying to process everything that had happened. The crash, the capture, the strange, imposing alien queen. There were more questions than answers swirling in his mind, but one thing was clear. His situation was dire. He had no way to communicate with the outside world, no way to call for help. He was completely alone in a foreign prison, at the mercy of beings he couldn't even begin to understand. His thoughts often returned to the mysterious necklace he had been wearing when he was captured. The simple silver chain had once been a gift from his mother, passed down from generation to generation. It was nothing special, at least in appearance, but there was something about it that felt different now, something that Aiden couldn't explain. When he first arrived at the Citadel, he hadn't given the necklace much thought, but now it felt as though it were pulsing with energy, almost as if it was calling to him, urging him to understand its hidden power. Aiden had been wearing the necklace for as long as he could remember. He couldn't even recall a time when it wasn't around his neck. His mother had always told him it was a family heirloom, one that carried the wisdom and strength of his ancestors. At the time, Aiden hadn't thought much of the words. But in his current situation, with no one else to talk to and nothing to do but wait, he began to wonder if there was more truth in her words than he had ever realized. He had spent hours examining it, trying to make sense of the strange inscriptions etched into the metal. The symbols were unlike anything he had seen before. They were ancient, with curves and twists that seemed to dance across the surface of the chain, shifting and changing the more he stared at them. There was a strange glow to them, faint but undeniable. One night, as he lay in the darkness of his cell, Aiden absent-mindedly traced his fingers along the necklace's intricate patterns. As his fingers brushed against the surface, the glow intensified, a low hum filling the room. Aiden's heart raced. Was this real? Had the necklace always been this powerful, or was something happening now that was beyond his understanding? Without warning, a bright light exploded from the necklace, and Aiden jerked back, squinting against the intensity. The light was so bright that it illuminated the entire cell, casting long shadows against the walls. He could feel the heat of it on his skin, and for a moment he thought it might burn him. But instead, the glow began to take shape, shifting and forming into something else. Before his eyes, a holographic map of the universe appeared in the air before him. The image was sharp and precise, more detailed than anything Aiden had ever seen. The stars, planets, and galaxies appeared as if they were floating in front of him, suspended in space. But that wasn't the most incredible part. What made the map truly remarkable were the small, blinking dots scattered across it, each one representing a hidden rebellion, a group of freedom fighters scattered across the galaxy. Aiden's breath caught in his throat as he took in the sight. He had no idea how this was possible. How could a necklace, an heirloom passed down through his family, hold this kind of power? The map was unlike anything he had ever seen, ancient, yet detailed, as if it had been created by someone with knowledge far beyond the scope of human understanding. He quickly began to trace his fingers along the hologram, his mind racing with questions. The map seemed to be showing him hidden locations, some of them marked with the same strange symbols that appeared on the necklace. But what did it all mean? Why had it activated now? And more importantly, what did it have to do with the alien queen, T-Karis? As the map flickered and shifted, Aiden realized that the necklace was showing him something far more valuable than just a rebellion. This was a key, a guide to the power that could change the course of his fate. The power to bring down Tikaris's empire, the power to free not only himself but the countless prisoners held by the alien queen. A weapon, hidden away for centuries, waiting to be unlocked. But there was a problem. The necklace wasn't giving him all the answers. It was only showing him the path. He still had to figure out how to use it, how to tap into its power. And the only way to do that was to get closer to Tikaris, to gain her trust. Aiden's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps approaching. He quickly deactivated the hologram, and the map vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. The light from the necklace faded, leaving Aiden in the dark once more. He quickly hid the necklace beneath his shirt and lay back down, trying to look as inconspicuous as possible. A few moments later, the heavy doors to his cell slid open with a loud hiss. Two guards stepped inside, their eyes scanning the room. They didn't speak, but Aiden knew what they wanted. He had been waiting for this. They were here to take him to the Queen. Aiden stood up, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over him. He didn't know exactly how this was going to play out, but he knew he had to try. The necklace had shown him a way forward. Now it was up to him to take the next step. The guards led him down a series of long, dimly lit corridors, their footsteps echoing off the walls. The citadel was a labyrinth, its vast halls and chambers stretching endlessly in every direction. The air felt heavy, thick with the weight of alien technology. It was as if the walls themselves were alive, humming with energy. As they walked, Aiden's thoughts raced. He had to find a way to use the necklace's power to learn what it was trying to show him. But how? How could he get close to Tikaris without arousing suspicion? He had no idea, but one thing was certain. He couldn't afford to waste any more time. The longer he stayed in captivity, the harder it would be to escape. Eventually, they reached a large chamber, its walls lined with glowing crystals that emitted a soft, pulsating light. In the center of the room stood a massive throne, carved from some kind of dark, smooth stone. And there, sitting upon the throne, was Tikaris. Her piercing eyes locked onto Aiden as he was brought before her, and for a moment, he felt as though he were staring into the depths of an abyss. She was even more imposing in person than she had been when he first laid eyes on her. Her purple skin seemed to shimmer in the light, her long black hair cascading down her shoulders like a dark waterfall. Her armor, adorned with intricate patterns, was like nothing Aiden had ever seen. It looked almost organic, as if it had been grown rather than forged. Tikaris regarded him silently for a moment, her gaze intense and calculating. She seemed to be weighing him, as if deciding what to do with him. Aiden met her gaze without flinching, trying to maintain his composure. He knew this was his chance to figure out what she wanted and how to use the power of the necklace to his advantage. "You've been quiet, Captain Reed," Tikaris finally spoke, her voice low and smooth. "You seem to have adjusted well to your new surroundings." Aiden didn't answer immediately. He had to be careful. If he said the wrong thing now, everything could fall apart. Instead, he studied her, looking for any hint of weakness, any crack in her cold exterior. "I'm just trying to understand why I'm here," Aiden replied evenly. "What do you want from me?" Tikaris smiled, though there was no warmth in it. "You are here because you are a threat to my empire, Captain. You are here because you carry something very important." Aiden's heart skipped a beat. He knew exactly what she meant, the necklace. She knew about it. "Perhaps you've noticed by now that I am no ordinary queen," Tikaris continued, her eyes narrowing. "I have eyes everywhere, and I've been watching you." Aiden's mind raced. The necklace wasn't just a tool, it was a beacon. Tikaris had been tracking him all along, and now he had to find a way to outsmart her before it was too late. The heavy stone doors closed behind Aiden with a resounding thud, and he was left standing in front of the alien queen, Tikaris. Her piercing eyes didn't leave him for a second, and for the first time since his capture, Aiden felt a chill run down his spine. The air in the room seemed to thicken, charged with an almost palpable tension. He had been preparing for this moment since the very first time he laid eyes on her, this powerful, mysterious ruler of Xylora. But nothing could have prepared him for the emotions that stirred inside him now. The queen was not just a cold, calculating leader. There was something deeper beneath the surface, something vulnerable, and Aiden wasn't sure if he should exploit it or try to understand it. Tikaris stood tall, regal in her presence, her dark purple skin shimmering faintly in the dim light of the chamber. Her armor, though exquisite, did nothing to hide the raw power that radiated from her. She was an imposing figure, but there was more to her than just her appearance. The necklace hidden beneath Aiden's shirt pulsed with energy once again, and he could feel its power coursing through him. He had no plan. He had no strategy. But the necklace had shown him something in its holographic map, a hint of a hidden truth about Tikaris's empire, about her past. And for some reason, it felt like now was the time to confront her, to try to figure out the pieces that had been hidden from him. "Why am I still here?" Aiden finally asked, breaking the silence. He knew he had to keep his tone calm and steady. His voice needed to sound confident, even if he was unsure of himself. "You said I was a threat to your empire. Is that why you've kept me alive?" Tikaris's lips twitched upward, almost as if she was amused by his question. She didn't respond immediately, instead walking slowly toward him. Each step she took echoed softly against the stone floor. Aiden watched her carefully, wondering if she was about to strike, to attack him for his defiance. "You are here because you are more than just a pilot," she said finally, her voice deep and unyielding. "You are here because you have something that could change everything. You carry a power you do not understand." Aiden's heart raced. The necklace, she knew about the necklace. "I don't know what you're talking about," Aiden said, forcing himself to remain calm. He couldn't let her know how deeply her words affected him. "It's just a necklace." "A family heirloom." Tikaris's smile faded, her eyes narrowing as she took another step closer. "A family heirloom," she repeated, her voice cold. "Yes, that is what you think it is, but it is so much more than that. You carry the key to an ancient weapon. A weapon that could either end my reign or give me the power to destroy all who oppose me." Aiden felt his throat tighten. His mind was spinning. This wasn't just some relic from his family's past. It was a weapon, an ancient force of unimaginable power. But why had it been passed down to him, and why hadn't his mother ever told him what it truly was? "I don't know what you want from me," Aiden said, trying to sound as nonchalant as possible. "But I'll never help you, I'll never work for you." Tikaris's expression didn't change. She was unfazed by his defiance. "You will," she said, her tone confident. "You don't have a choice. You see, Captain Reed, I've been watching you. Since the moment you arrived on my planet, I've known what you are capable of. You are not just some random human pilot. You are the one who will either help me achieve ultimate power, or you will help the rebellion destroy me. The choice, however, will not be yours for long." Aiden clenched his fists at his sides. He couldn't let her manipulate him, couldn't let her use him as a pawn in her games. But he also couldn't ignore the truth in her words. The necklace was important, and somehow it had drawn her attention. She knew something about it, something he didn't. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them crackled with the intensity of their unspoken thoughts. Aiden knew that Tikaris was not an ordinary queen. She wasn't a simple dictator bent on domination. There was something more to her, a history, a burden she carried that shaped her into the ruler she was today. Finally, Tikaris broke the silence. "I was not always like this," she said, her voice softer now, almost like she was speaking to herself more than to Aiden. "I was not always the ruthless queen that stands before you. Once I was a leader of peace, a ruler who sought to unite my people and bring harmony to the galaxy." Aiden blinked in surprise. This was not what he had expected. The queen, a ruthless conqueror, had once been a peaceful ruler. "I was betrayed," Tikaris continued, her voice growing harder. "By my own people. They turned against me and I was forced to fight, to become what I am now. I embraced power because I believed it was the only way to ensure survival. And now I will not let anyone take it from me. Not the rebels, not you, not anyone." Aiden watched her closely, trying to understand her words. She had been a ruler of peace. He couldn't fathom it. Everything he had seen of Tikaris pointed to a woman who was driven by ambition and fear. But perhaps there was more to her than met the eye. "I'm sorry for what happened to you," Aiden said, his voice more measured than before. "But that doesn't give you the right to rule the galaxy with an iron fist. You've enslaved countless people. You've destroyed entire civilizations. You don't get to justify that." Tikaris turned away, her back now to him as she gazed out a large window overlooking the citadel. "You are wrong, Captain Reed," she said quietly. "You see only what I have become, not what I was, not the woman I was before all of this." For a moment there was silence. Aiden wasn't sure what to say. He couldn't change the past for her, and he didn't know if he could trust her now. But her words, her vulnerability, made him rethink everything. Was she truly the monster he had believed her to be? Or was she a woman who had been broken by her own people, shaped into a tyrant by betrayal? Tikaris turned back to face him, her eyes meeting his with an intensity that left him speechless. "I will give you one chance, Captain Reed," she said, her voice steady. "You will help me unlock the full power of the necklace, and together we will rule the galaxy, or you will watch as I destroy everything you care about." Aiden swallowed hard, his mind racing. This was not what he had expected. This was not a simple choice between rebellion and submission. This was about something deeper, about power, betrayal, and the possibility of change. But in the end, Aiden knew one thing: the necklace had shown him the path. And whatever path he chose, it would change the course of history forever. The days that followed Aiden's conversation with Queen Tikaris were filled with tension. His cell had been moved to a more comfortable room, a strategic move on Tikaris's part, no doubt, to keep him under closer observation while she decided what to do with him. But despite the luxury of his new accommodations, Aiden felt no safer. He could sense the storm brewing, an inevitable confrontation between the Queen's vision of power and the faint glimmer of hope he felt deep down. He had spent hours thinking about her words. The Queen was not just a tyrant. She was a ruler shaped by her past, by the betrayal of those she trusted. That knowledge made her dangerous. It also made her vulnerable, and Aiden couldn't shake the feeling that if he were careful, he could exploit that vulnerability. Aiden had been studying the holographic map that the necklace had revealed to him, trying to understand how he could use it. The map wasn't just a guide to rebel factions. It was more than that. It was a blueprint to a weapon. The kind of weapon that could either help Tikaris gain ultimate control or bring down her empire. But he didn't trust her enough to hand her such power. No, the weapon needed to be used for the right cause. It needed to be in the hands of the people who truly wanted freedom, not in the hands of a queen who had already shown her willingness to destroy for the sake of control. The more Aiden thought about the necklace, the more he realized the truth. It was more than just a key to the weapon. It was a part of an ancient technology that had been hidden for centuries. Its origins were as mysterious as the Queen herself, but it was clear now that it was tied to the very fate of the galaxy. Whether that fate would be shaped by Tikaris's ambition or by the rebellion's hope was still up in the air. Aiden had to make a decision that would alter the course of everything. One evening, Tikaris visited him again. This time, she didn't speak immediately. She just stood in the doorway, watching him as if assessing his very soul. Her dark eyes studied him with a mix of curiosity and authority. Her usual cold demeanor was still there, but there was a hint of something else, something he couldn't quite place. Maybe it was doubt. "You've had time to think," she finally said, her voice calm but firm. "You know what's at stake now, Captain Reed. The choice you make will not just affect you, it will affect the entire galaxy. It will determine whether the galaxy is ruled by fear or by freedom." Aiden didn't look up from the map displayed in front of him. He was stalling, trying to gather his thoughts, but he knew this moment was inevitable. He had no choice but to face it. "I've thought about it," Aiden said finally, his voice steady. "I've thought about everything you've said, and I know what you want, but I'm not going to give you what you're asking for." Tikaris's expression didn't change. If anything, her gaze grew even more intense, more searching. She stepped into the room, closing the distance between them until they were standing only a few feet apart. Her presence was overwhelming, but Aiden didn't flinch. "And why not?" she asked, her tone softer now, almost like a challenge. "You could have all the power you could ever want. The galaxy would be at your feet. You could reshape it in your image." Aiden turned away from her, his fingers resting on the cool surface of the map. The necklace, hidden beneath his shirt, seemed to hum with energy, as if it were reacting to his thoughts. He knew what he had to do. He had to make the choice, even if it meant facing the consequences alone. "I'm not interested in power for the sake of control," Aiden said, his voice firm. "I'm interested in freedom, the kind of freedom where people can live their lives without fear of being crushed under a ruler's boot, and I don't believe you can bring that." "Not with the way you're ruling." Tikaris was silent for a long moment. Aiden could feel her eyes on him, probing, assessing. Finally, she spoke again, her voice colder than before. "You think you can change things?" she asked. "You think you can bring peace with the rebels? You've seen what they're capable of. The galaxy is at war, Captain Reed. There is no room for idealism. The only way to end this war is through absolute power, the power I offer." Aiden took a deep breath, his mind racing. He thought of the people trapped under Tikaris's rule, of the prisoners who suffered in the Citadel, of the countless lives lost in the galaxy's ongoing conflict. The choice was clear, even if it was the hardest one he would ever make. "I can't let you do that," Aiden said quietly, turning to face her. "I won't be a part of it. I won't help you destroy everything for the sake of your empire." Tikaris's face hardened, her eyes narrowing. For a moment, Aiden thought she might strike him, but instead she stepped back, a cold smile spreading across her face. "You think you have the power to stop me?" she asked, her voice filled with a strange mixture of amusement and something darker. "You have no idea what you're dealing with, Captain. I have the galaxy in the palm of my hand. You have nothing. You're just a prisoner, a pawn in my game." Aiden didn't respond. He couldn't argue with her anymore. There was no point. He had made his decision, and now he had to live with the consequences. "I've made my choice," he said simply, "and I'm not going to change my mind." Tikaris seemed to hesitate, her gaze flicking to the necklace that Aiden still wore. She seemed to sense something. Maybe she knew he was hiding more than he was letting on. But for a brief moment, there was an odd silence between them. It was as though Tikaris was considering something, weighing the possibility of a different path, one where she didn't have to destroy everything. But then, just as quickly, her expression hardened once more. "Very well," she said, her voice cold and final. "You've made your choice, but know this, Captain Reed, there will be no escape for you. You will watch as I tear down your rebellion. You will watch as I burn everything you hold dear, and you will regret this decision." Aiden stood tall despite the weight of her words. He knew what was at stake. He knew the path ahead would not be easy, but he had made his decision and he couldn't back down now. Tikaris turned on her heel and walked toward the door. "I'll give you one final chance," she said without looking back. "Join me and I will spare you. Refuse and you will witness the destruction of everything you've fought for." The doors slid open, and Tikaris was gone, leaving Aiden standing alone in the chamber. For a long moment, Aiden remained still, his mind racing. He could hear the faint hum of the Citadel's machinery in the distance, a constant reminder of the power that surrounded him. But his resolve had never been stronger. He wasn't going to join her. He wasn't going to stand by and watch her destroy everything. There was still hope. The necklace had shown him that, and no matter how dark the road ahead seemed, he was going to fight for it. The final choice had been made, and now Aiden was ready for whatever came next.